I am someone who becomes very accustomed to the frequency of the places that I live, and when I put myself in new surroundings, I tend to be ultra sensitive to the places I go because, from my clairvoyant perspective, there is a stark difference in all aspects of energy. Especially coming from the islands of Hawaii. Hawaii is a very powerful vortex in itself, so coming from there to anywhere always requires a bit of an adjustment. But this is not new to me. It's always been this way, and I've traveled back and forth between California and Hawaii countless times over almost 20 years. But this time it was different. Shockingly different. When I landed in California, I was horrified by what I saw around me. I instantaneously saw this dreadful energy cloaking everything. It looked like this massive black cloud, and I felt these tentacle-like appendages reaching out and trying to grab onto me and pull me into its darkness. What was so alarming is that this cloud felt like it had a consciousness to it, and at moments I could see these beady red eyes looming at me. Its agenda was to make me succumb to fear. Seeing demons or parasitic entity attachments on people is not new to me. It's a visual burden I don't often describe because I don't think people want to know that energies like this exist. But this was on another level. I have never seen anything of this caliber. An entire building, yes. Maybe even a massive land, I've seen an entity like darkness overwhelm it. But an entirely densely populated city, and everyone within it? I was deeply disturbed, and it was challenging to process. But in my work, I am often required to help people dispel dark energies, so I understood immediately what I was dealing with and felt confident in my ability to keep this energy at a far enough distance that I would be able to energetically breathe. What was sad was having to observe everyone else who was consumed by it. They looked sickly, pale, with a gray film over them, looking as though the life force energy had been sucked out of them. There was sadness and fear in everybody's face, and everyone moved around like masked zombies in a haze. Every place I went had a giant TV blasting the news channels, and all it talked about everywhere you went was COVID, deaths, a deadlier variant, and how dangerous it was if you didn't get the vaccine. Even as I was trying to enjoy my meals in restaurants, this horrible dialogue filled the room of death and fear, and no one seemed to care. This energy was reminiscent of the black fog I saw billowing out of my speakers the first time I heard a radio newscast about COVID. I'm seeing how they are pumping this energy everywhere through the media, and everyone is lost in its hypnotic trance. They had fully acclimated to this reality. All I kept thinking was, how are these people not seeing what's happening to them? It was profound to witness how desensitized they had become. As I traveled north out of the city, one by one I reconnected to old friends. People I've known for huge lengths of my life, though I've not seen them in years, and as can be expected, people change. But the changes I saw this time were not positive. In fact, I saw the same depleted fear like a gray film glazed over almost anyone I saw. Friends that I knew to be courageous and powerful were now living in a life of recluse and anxiety because of how traumatized they'd been with dealing with the fear around the virus. Friends who I admired for their rebellious nature and commitment to living an alternative lifestyle, who abandoned the mainstream expectations of how one should live, eating vegan or organic, supporting local farmers, healing their bodies with holistic practices as to not support big pharma, to choosing homesteading and growing their own, and shopping local rather than support big box chains, were now so proud to announce to me that they got their vaccine and how great it is that we can get back to normal now. I could actually feel the recoil in some of them when I told them I didn't get it, nor would I ever. I honestly didn't have an opinion about anyone's personal choice. When I felt that they had it towards me and mine, I felt offended. and could see how easily someone could be pressured to follow the crowd, as it was just easier that way. This was deepening my awareness of how intense this whole situation had been and how desperate people must have been feeling to find relief from their fear. I realized very quickly that I had taken for granted what a beautiful vortex of the islands that I live on. We're in the middle of the ocean, very isolated from the rest of the world, and when COVID was in its height, we simply stopped letting people fly in. The island I live on didn't even have one case of COVID for many months. It's a small landmass with a limited amount of people, and being an island, there's a sense of security in knowing that people just can't come in without anyone knowing. There's also salt water and clean air, which is constantly purifying stagnant energies. Also, the cultural aspect, as it is one of the only states that is mostly indigenous, and they have still carried their traditions, which are deeply mystic and spiritually grounded and permeate everything. So all this combined meant that the collective energies of fears were always being balanced by this very powerful healing vortex, and I had the good fortune to have been living there while we were adjusting to the pandemic reality. In contrast, when going to the mainland, people are on one giant mass of land that lacks clean waterways to help move energies, with many very populated, congested, and sometimes polluted areas, and with a mass of people who do not align on their spiritual practices, if they have any at all. This combined was a much denser frequency and was not equipped to transmute as much of that fear energy that was being fed into it. After weeks of being on the mainland, I noticed a change in myself. I was beginning to get ultra paranoid about sanitation, germs, and touching anything. I've always maintained good hygiene practices, especially since the pandemic, but this had escalated in me to a paranoid level. And though I noticed it, I kept justifying it because I was now in a much more populated area with all kinds of people who I don't know where they had been. My psychosis had gotten so bad that I started developing odd headaches, and the slightest tinge of a symptom would have me whirling in panic. After about 3 weeks in California, I had convinced myself that I possibly contracted some sort of brain parasite because of the nature of the headaches, and that my vision had been failing for quite a while, but I'm only now noticing because it seemed though I was going blind. My vision was blurrier and blurrier by the day. This wasn't something I thought maybe was happening. I was convinced it was happening. I was in a constant state of anxiety and energetically exhausted. To my good fortune, I unexpectedly encountered a shamanic healer who did a treatment on me. She focused her work around my head. I felt her gathering this sludgy energy from my heart chakra up, and when she had collected the bulk of it, she began to peel it off my head. My left eye popped through the muck, and it was like this light and color flooded into my vision. Immediately I could see crystal clear through that one eye. It was in that moment that I understood that all the symptoms I was feeling was something that was outside of myself and not actually me. She continued to remove this energy, and it was an instantaneous night and day difference. It was as though the color of the world around me had been faded, and as soon as she removed this energy, it was like someone put the lights back on. The colors of the world saturated everything again, and my brain literally felt like it was taking these deep, full breaths of fresh air. I was breathing in light. My life force had flooded back into me. I felt amazing for the rest of the day, but by the end of the next day, I began to notice how I was being pulled back into the paranoid, fear-based perspective, despite the definitive clarity I now had that these feelings were not from me. This is how powerful this energy is. By the time I got back to Hawaii, I plummeted into a dark hole of hopelessness, despair, and anxiety to a point that I remained bedridden. It was a spiritual hell. This is not my character at all. I do not battle with anxieties and fears in this way. I eventually had to get energy healing from someone else to get me through it. I discovered that I had acquired an energetic parasite. It was latched in my back between my shoulders. This energetic parasite was feeding on my energy and pulling me into a hopeless, disempowered fear state. As soon as it was removed, everything instantaneously went back to normal. No more paranoia, anxiety, or hopelessness. I was horrified at the strength and intensity of this parasite and stunned at how it was able to make its way into my energy field. Parasitic attachments cannot attach to someone if they are full of light and operating at a high frequency. That light and flow within the soul matrix protects it from lower density energies and entities. I generally can keep my energy strong enough, and if I feel myself fall off balance, my clairvoyant sense allows me to catch when energy is off and do what is necessary to remedy the issue before it becomes a bigger problem. The collective fear cloud was so enormous, it wore me down to the point of fragility and vulnerability that an energetic parasite was able to latch in. I am pretty confident on my ability to hold my boundaries and protections up, and if this can happen to me, I now understood why everyone looked as they did in California. And if it had me for as long as it did without me realizing what it was, it made me wonder how many other people were afflicted with this and are totally unaware that they are going through the motions of their life, adjusted to the bleakness and drain of the experience, because everyone around them are also in the same fog. There's not enough contrast to see it for what it is. I believe that trip was divinely placed so I would get a super clear understanding of the spiritual nature of this battle we're in. So everything I've explained to you is what I felt was necessary for you to know before I tell you about the last contact and download of the potential future that I see. It is still very much in alignment of what I had already seen over the years, but this time I was given a more detailed understanding of how it actually unfolds. Within it were key messages for humanity and guidance on how to move through it in the best way possible. And it is because of this that I feel compelled to share it at all. I ask you to consider that if what has been asked of us individually to support this vision is in the realm of possibility for you to align to, it would be but a small effort on your part that could potentially elevate you and those around you regardless of whether this unfolds exactly as I saw it. It takes the effort of many to see us to a better future, no matter what that path may be. And once again, I tell you, I do not claim that this is absolutely how it's going to happen. But from my point of view, I have been given these powerful visions, and so I must stand by my experiences, because they are as real to me as anything. And if I get to the end of this life, and this has not transpired in even the slightest reflection of what I'm about to say, then I will humbly be the first to admit that I was wrong. Though I must tell you, I rather go my whole life with the hopeful belief in this as a possibility than go one day with the feeling of uncertainty and hopelessness without it. I told you about my feelings and experiences around COVID and the vaccine for a reason. I wanted to let you know how it is that I formulated my perception and choices based solely on intuition, but was unattached to trying to understand why I felt as I did. I've been holding space for everyone's different viewpoint, so none of what people wanted to assume about COVID and the vaccine really mattered to me. I just trusted that we would end up in a better place. I tell you this because what I'm about to say is not what I expected nor wanted to be told. They, meaning the ETs, angels, and spirit guides who give me this information and visions, told me that the virus was created. It was created by a group who wanted to control humanity through fear, because with fear they can assume power over the people. They said that this virus was already on its way out, that it had always had a natural expiration date, and it is losing its hold on us. We have already moved through the peak of what it could do to us, and it won't be long until it is no longer able to be used as the catalyst to keep us fearful of each other. They said that while it does have the ability to kill people, its effect on the whole of humanity could be compared to a scratch, not like the big, gaping, festering wound that the narrative has been pumping to the public, portraying it to be untreatable and far more dangerous than it actually is. So they could justify taking the insanely extreme measures that they have, which has disempowered us as a people and systematically stripped us of our basic human rights. They said that those who have created this know full well that they have a very limited amount of time left to utilize COVID as a reason to enforce their true agenda, which is the vaccine. Well, doesn't the vaccine help? I asked. They then showed me a frightening image of a wealthy old man with fistfuls of sharp syringes dripping with the vaccine, and a crazy, enraged look in his eyes, violently and repetitively stabbing them down upon the people. I was horrified. Why? I asked. Why are they so desperate for people to take this vaccine? What is in it? They then told me in a way I could comprehend, because I am not a doctor or a scientist, and I do not have the vocabulary or understanding of things of this nature that they could have pulled from my awareness to help explain it. This is what they said and how it was shown to me. That there are particles in the vaccine that when injected into the body, they disperse through the system and distort the electromagnetic frequencies, misaligning the current of light force energy that moves through the energy body. More or less, the soul matrix, this intricate web of sacred geometric energy lines that feed source energy into our light bodies, that has the ability to invigorate the chakras and heal the mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical body, as well as enhance our psychic abilities and intuition, and integrate downloads and guidance from source, are being blocked by the particles that are in the vaccine. It halts people's energy that are on the pathway to ascension from accelerating into higher frequencies, or locks people into a lower vibrational frequency that they are already in. It hinders them from accessing source energy, which aggravates and amplifies the fear energy that brought them to taking it in the first place. So rather than conquering the fear that they should have felt from the security of being protected by the vaccine, it only created more of it, therefore luring people into supporting the act of continued separation, segregation, superiority over others, and complacency in following the narrative without question. But all is not lost, because they told me that the power it has to suppress our light bodies is weak, so long as the host consciously rewires their energy back into its original alignment. They told me that those who already have a more holistic lifestyle and spiritual practice and intuitive awareness would naturally rewire themselves back, meaning those who have been diligent on eating clean, like an organic or more plant-based diet, and have kept their bodies free of things like chemicals and pesticides, who care for their physical bodies with things like exercise and yoga, and people who meditate regularly and often or see energy healers will be able to reroute their energy flow and come back into their original alignment. The vaccine particles over time will no longer affect them, but it will halt their progression in integrating more with the light until they have achieved full realignment. For those that have no spiritual practices or tools, those are the people of concern. Those are the ones who are going to be continually affected by its ability to block the prana, chi, or life force energy, whatever you want to call it. And over time, this will continue to oppress the energy body, making it harder for them to tap into their own intuitive guidance, feel hopeful, empowered, to spiritually advance and eventually heal their own bodies as effectively as it naturally should. And as uncomfortable as it is to bring you this insight, knowing that it might challenge so much of what you've been told or made to believe, it is necessary because it only takes conscious awareness of what has been done and an intentional initiation of some basic spiritual practices to reset the system back to its origin. But it cannot happen unless you do the work. To be clear, I do not claim that there is nothing of benefit possibly interlaced within the vaccine that has the ability to resist the virus. I'm not even telling you that you shouldn't take it. But for those of you who are considering it or already have, all I'm saying is be aware of what you are doing to your system by injecting this into your body. Just like many modern medicines, there is a list of side effects, which is sort of like the price you have to pay in order to get the perks. What I'm telling you is that the side effect is oppressive to your frequency and will sever you from light force energy. So might we not wonder, why would they want to do such a thing to humanity? And why would they want to do it now? The ETs answered this for me. They showed me that our planet has been moving throughout our galaxy, and the trajectory of its movement is taking us through some very high frequencies that exist beyond the borders of Earth. They showed it to me like brilliant ribbons of light that were delicately caressing the planet. These energies are like a healing massage, activating the consciousness of humanity, and the acceleration of these high vibratory fields are breaking up deeply embedded, stagnant, and stuck energies, not only within the planet but our soul bodies, as well as the collective. Because these cosmic ribbons of light are dislodging the compacted energies of lifetimes of traumas and suffering, there is a lot of emotional wounds manifesting in the individual realities and in the collective realities. Meaning, unresolved traumas are coming to the surface and being forced to be purged. Individually, this would show itself as challenges within our relationships, health, and well-being, forcing us to address truths about our personal imbalances that may be uncomfortable and disheartening. We are also seeing this as racial, cultural, political, and sexual imbalances that have been buried and oppressed for too long, and now is rearing its ugliness into the conscious awareness of humanity. These energies are being forced to be addressed and healed for the masses. It also manifests as catastrophic natural disasters and climate change, all of which has escalated to a point of great concern. This is a massive healing purge, and as you know, when we are overcome with sickness, the purge we must endure for wellness is not always pleasant, but it is usually followed by a great flush of relief. We are in the purging part of this shift right now. It is happening before our eyes, and the intensity of its expulsion is going to be overwhelming for the masses. Just as our bellies twist and churn before we have to heave and heave again, our planet and humanity as one oversoul is experiencing this painful process now. I can't express enough that this is all an unpleasant but necessary part of the process. Those who have over their many lifetimes been doing the work on the soul level will not be as adversely affected by these energies as much as those who still carry a great deal of density within them. It is unfortunate to say that most people on the planet are still very much burdened by the karmic load and have not done the work, or have not been able to do enough of it that they are now experiencing distress, unrest, and despair in a variety of ways, however it is meant to manifest as we go through this shift. They assure me that everyone, regardless of the experience laid before them, is in agreement to what their specific story is meant to be, because the negative experiences that many will go through are meant to balance them so their souls can ascend. They explain to me that this time now is deeply embedded into the hidden consciousness of all, that by divine design we would come to a time where these energies have opened up portals of healing, and we might access this divine truth and do the work necessary in ourselves to dispel as much of the wounds of our spirits as possible in order to prepare for this great shift. that there are groups of souls that have mastered their lessons, that are here to assist their fellow humans in awakening their consciousness and healing their spirits, so they too can elevate the collective energies and help us reach ascension faster. In addition to this, there are many ET groups from all over the cosmos who have sent their own to incarnate as humans on the planet. And these starseed beings bring a very high frequency that has been working as a sort of template for the rest of humanity to align to, therefore also accelerating the shift. These starseed beings are volunteers. They are the groups that have helped bridge spiritual practices to humanity throughout our history, that we now observe as spiritual pathways to enlightenment, and in more recent generations they have been the ones to revolutionize how it is we are living by teaching us how to exist more harmoniously with Gaia and each other. They injected art, music, technology, medicine, energy healing, and earth-saving practices into our realities. And the newest starseeds, the youngest group of children on the planet, are holding the highest frequency of all, because they are here to solidify the new wave being into our reality. Many starseeds are totally unaware that this is who they are. They may simply just have a desire to be good or do good for all, discreetly disguised as a human being on Earth, stripped of the memory of who they truly are. But what is so unique about this specific time now is how these cosmic energies are affecting our consciousness, and so many starseeds are being offered an opportunity to remember where they came from and what their original mission was. They are remembering that they came to assist in elevating humanity's consciousness to the next level of their spiritual evolution. They told me that just as the good are influenced by higher consciousness beings to inspire good things in the world, the darker energies do the same by working through those who live in a lower vibration. These lower vibrational humans are overcome by the trickster energies, and they are the ones that have been a part of inventing oppressive technologies and health practices, poisoning our food, our planet, or part of the group that inject art and music that hypnotizes people's consciousness into engaging with fear or self-serving and superficial behaviors. None of them are conscious that they are being manipulated and influenced for this purpose. The darker beings that orchestrated this pandemic know that our planet would be moving through these higher frequencies at this time, and that masses of people would begin to spiritually awaken very quickly, and that they would lose hold of the suffering of its people that they feed on. So they have been systematically preparing for countless generations so that in this time now, they would be able to limit our ability to be influenced by these ascension energies. They told me that if COVID had not happened, the acceleration of the collective consciousness would be very obvious across the planet. People's psychic gifts would be opening. They would be overcome with synchronicities, auric and intuitive phenomenon, and tap into their creator potential with amazing feats of positive manifestation. People would have a very clear lens to see through lies and illusion, and they would have a greater sense of love and compassion towards all living things. But the fog of fear created from COVID consumed the planet, like a collective consciousness experiment put upon us to be our own oppressors. Because they understand that we are powerful creators and that our thought consciousness creates the reality we exist in. And if we collectively agree that we are weak and want others to control how it is we live and think, then that is the reality we will continue to be a part of. Every self-limiting belief that we have adopted and adhered to within our souls throughout time is exactly what we have become. Thoughts like, I'm stupid, I'm ugly, I'm talentless, I'm ordinary, I'm sick. All of these deeply embedded programs that we hold within our consciousness is what ultimately shaped the design of our lives. They told me that the biggest lie that has ever been put on humanity is that we are limited, that we are powerless, and that we are unworthy, and that if humans truly knew what we were capable of, We could instantaneously change the whole of our existence with one collective intentional thought. They showed me the earth, Gaia, our mother, as her divine feminine self, and she looked malnourished and was being brutally raped, mutilated, and overcome with disease. These afflictions that she endured were the collective atrocities that we were afflicting upon each other and the planet. The violence and abuse amongst the people, the ignorance and disrespect of the natural world. For every ounce of suffering any one person endures or inflicts, the mother suffers too. She is a reflection of our pain body. My heart and mind observed this terror being done to her, so heart-wrenching and painful to watch, and my protector spirit could only think to shout out, "Enough! No more! We are done!" Feeling if I believed it enough, I could stop it. But the light of my belief seemed so small against the whole of all the negativity. The ETs then showed me that though I felt like my light was not strong enough to break through the whole of all the darkness, to hold my energy in the light is as potent as tens of thousands holding theirs in shadow, as even the smallest light can illuminate a sea of darkness. And though it seems that there are so many people consumed by the shadows of suffering, it takes far less of those who are truly aligned to the light to illuminate this world for all. Then, to my surprise, a UFO manifested above me. A craft that was much larger and much closer than any I had ever seen. And almost as soon as I took it in and acknowledged its presence, it faded from my view. I immediately began to question if I saw it at all. It was as though there was this energetic exoskeleton of a massive, translucent craft the size of a football field hovering above me. It seemed as though if I stood up and chucked a stone in the air, I might hear a ting on the bottom of it, though I knew it must have been quite a bit higher in the sky. It was just so massive. I could make out the streamlined, geometric shape of its exterior, and there was a bright flashing light that pulsed from its center, which was what grabbed my attention in the first place. Though I could not hear it, I sensed a deadening of sound in the space I observed it to be until it left. And though it was not fully manifested in the physical, because of my clairvoyant lens, I was able to make it out enough to know it was there. And as I began to try to convince myself that I had in fact not just seen what I thought I saw, it swooshed by, now higher up in the sky, gliding just slow enough for me to make out that it was the same ship I just saw hovering above me moments ago. And even after the second time it manifested, I still took into question if this is what I was seeing. And it came back the other way and revealed itself to me just enough once more. And with that, they downloaded to me the purpose of this sighting. They told me that they wanted me to understand that they have the ability to be in super close proximity to us, and we would not know that they are there. I suddenly had awareness that there were not only many ships in the sky, but there were many ETs of all different kinds all around me. Not in full third-dimensional manifestation, but enough for me to acknowledge that they were present. They told me that the borders that once existed between us and them are no longer hindering their ability to be close to us. But they said they are not going to descend to our third-dimensional plane, that they are on standby in very close proximity, waiting for us to ascend to their higher dimensional plane. And the more aligned we get into the higher frequencies, the more solidified they will become to our awareness. It sort of felt like the event was happening, but we didn't even know we were there or that it started. They explained that because they were in a higher frequency, that time did not move like it does in the third-dimensional space. So what from their end seems momentary might feel quite drawn out on our end, lasting many months, maybe years. And we are now in the window of time that as people start awakening and sort of popping into their dimension, they will be ready to seize our momentary shifts into their dimension to assist those that are awakening into this higher frequency reality. They said that they will not overwhelm people, as it will start subtly and will only be as much as each individual is ready to receive. They said it starts while we sleep with UFO and alien-like dreams, and will elevate to the waking time with auric phenomenon, vibrations, orbs, ringing in the ears, the sense of presences, telepathic transmission, the feeling of upgrades and downloads, to sightings of UFOs, to partially solidified interfaces, and then eventually to fully embodied visitations. This acceleration of consciousness will happen over a phenomenally short window of time in comparison to the many thousands of years that we existed with extremely limited abilities. They said that there are some ET groups who have had the ability and purpose of manifesting in our third dimensional space, and those are the ones that have been part of the many recorded sightings and encounters priming humanity for this global awakening. They have served their purpose, but we are not only meant to align with them, as there are even higher density beings who have had no desire to drop into the dangerous and toxic conditions of the third dimension. They are waiting for our planet to evolve enough to be in coherence with them, and they have been doing all that they are able to in safely guiding us to this higher dimensional reality. I asked them if the world was ready to see them in their full manifestation, and they very sternly said no. Like a not even close kind of no. And when I asked them if I was ready, they also said no. But I was more ready than most. Though I have had many more visitations and communications than most people, I do not exist with full awareness of their presence in my everyday. I still have a lot of personal work to do to be able to hold myself in close enough frequency with them to interface with them with unobscured clarity. To see and hear them as though they are as solidified as me is incredibly rare and does not last long. Once we all ascend, I understand that the connection will be constant and unabridged. They then showed me that the planet was essentially divided into three major groups. Group 1, the smallest group of all, those are the ones who have maintained their spiritual alignment and are awoken. They are committed to their spiritual faith and rely on their own intuitive abilities and believe in their manifesting power. They have not been swayed by the shadow forces and have easily sensed when untruths were being told. I saw them as spiritual guides, leaders, and light workers all around the planet. They have managed to keep their consciousness above the oppressive fear cloud by utilizing their spiritual tools and practices, and are dedicated to being a voice of positivity and compassion in a reality where so many want to focus their energy on fears and judgments over others. Then there is Group 2, which is bigger than the first, and they are the group that comprises of the truly dark, self-serving abusers, sociopaths, and psychopaths with purely evil intentions that are here to keep darkness and suffering in the world. And in Group 3, which is much larger than the first two groups, this group consists of the ones that are somewhere between the other two. They are the ones that are still struggling with the temptations and oppressions of shadow and their deeper desire to be truly good. Many in this group are actually well-intentioned beings who make good choices in life, but they are not spiritually awoken or understand that they are divine, infinite beings that are one with Source. They have bought into the illusion that they are limited and see the whole of their potential from a physical point of view. This is the group that has those that get caught up in the game of sides for seemingly good cause, but are unaware of how they are adding to the energy of shame and blame, separation and fear. This also includes the many who should be spiritually awakening now, but are being oppressed by the vaccine, as their frequency is being stifled in order to keep them buried under the fear cloud and separated from the light. Please understand that being vaccinated or unvaccinated does not determine which group you belong to. Your place is solely decided upon your level of spiritual consciousness. The ETs said that those of Group 1, the awakened ones, are going to continuously benefit from the high frequency energies that are encompassing the planet. They assured me that there are more and more waking up, furthering their spiritual development by the second, that they are everywhere, and though they have not fully come forward or are openly talking about it, it is blossoming behind the scenes. You will know you are part of this group if in just the last few years you have seen your life lift and suddenly accelerate into a positive direction. You will have become more in alignment with your highest potential, and you will be reaping the rewards of many things that you've been trying to manifest in your life. You will have noticed that despite the fact that there are so many who are suffering through the blow of the pandemic, you had somehow managed to be positioned in such a way that you were able to breeze through it without being totally devastated. You will have had an empowered surge to make a huge shift in your life, whether it be changing the quality of people you surround yourself with, the place you live, or your career, and find that you no longer have tolerance to anything that creates negativity of any kind in your life. You will also have had a perceived massive spiritual awakening or acceleration, and notice that your intuitive gifts have exponentially increased, observing the magic of synchronicities and manifestation all around you. You will have found yourself to be quickly and efficiently moving through your blocks, imbalances, and fears as you have the tools to get yourself back into alignment with your higher self and a greater truth, despite the hopeless fear mentality that saturates our world. And even though I did say that the vaccine would have had an effect of slowing this momentum down, because the awakened ones understand that they are energy and that they can shift their frequency, they are the ones that will realign themselves to be more in coherence with the light and be able to continue towards their spiritual advancement and ascension. They told me that this acceleration is going faster and faster by the moment, and that we will see this group advance very quickly in a very short window of time. Their psychic gifts will be opening up in ways that are beyond our imagination, as they are the ones that the higher ETs are on standby to assist, teach, and upgrade as they lift into the higher dimensional reality. Because they are going to be so illuminated, the contrast and separation between them and those who remain stuck in the old, low vibratory frequencies is going to be more obvious than ever. It will be like a magnetic force of gravity, where groups within like frequencies will begin to congregate. Those in the light group will be driven and inspired to spread the light in any way they can, facilitating healings, gathering in groups to teach and share these spiritual practices and truths. Their life will revolve around self-healing, healing of others, and the healing of the planet. Those who stay behind will add to the fear and exist in a space of hopelessness, depression, and anxiety, and will feel powerless to pull themselves out of their own suffering. They will fear their future. They will pocket in areas that are set to experience social and political unrest and be bombarded with natural disasters, disease, and violence, as well as experience struggles within their personal lives, soul groups, and communities. They will feel stuck and unable to transition out of their oppressive situations or lack the empowered will to create a better life for themselves. They will blindly bow to the pressures instilled by their governments and peers. Everything in their life will be a manifestation of the unresolved karmic energies or embedded emotional traumas that they were unable to work through. And because they are not benefiting from the ascension energies that are surrounding the planet, it will be difficult for them to navigate their healing of mind, body, and spirit with efficiency. Because they lack the empowered awareness that they could have shifted the density from them with these spiritual practices, they will have to go through manifesting their imbalances in the physical as these unfortunate experiences in order to balance the karmic debt their souls need to reach ascension. The contrast between these two groups will become so intense that it will be as though they are living in two different worlds, though they will be very much aware of each other. While one group is experiencing this incredible spiritual awakening and advancement, the other will not have the capacity to believe it. Though Group 1 will be more aligned to have a smoother path in front of them, it will be incredibly difficult to witness the others go through the suffering. I was told that we are in this transition now, and have only seen the tip of what this extreme polarization will look like. It will be devastating to be in the suffering and devastating to observe it. When consciousness awakens, people will be reconnecting to their higher self, recalling their past incarnations, visiting with ETs, having full contact with their spirit guides, angels, and ancestors. There will be no sense of separation between them and their loved ones who have crossed over, as they will be able to see them and communicate with them in an even more lucid way than some of the best mediums can today. They will see the earth spirit and elementals, and may even tap into some superpowers like telepathy, telekinesis, levitation, and teleportation. This heightened awareness will make them ultra-sensitive to seeing all aspects of the energetic world, including energies that are out of balance, and this ability to see these distortions will make them effective healers, as they will be able to recognize where healing needs to take place and do what is necessary to facilitate it. They will help the earthbound spirits who have been trapped and unable to cross over, and support the living in opening up their energy bodies to integrate more light. The further they evolve, the more assistance and guidance they will receive from the beings within the higher dimensional planes. There will be some within this group that are more advanced and will act as pioneers and guides for those who are coming through right behind them. As the collective light from Group 1 amplifies, it will inspire some of those from Group 3, and this awakening will trickle in and pluck them from the shadows one by one, so that they too can join the collective effort to move towards true enlightenment. And the most amazing part of all is what happens next. When there are enough souls who have elevated to the full potential of their light consciousness, there is going to be a miraculous event. A divine consciousness will fill the world and permeate everything. It will speak from the sky, the earth, your own inner being, and at the same time will feel as though it has form and is speaking to you directly. This divine consciousness, an embodiment of unconditional love and source light energy, will fill the hearts and spirits of those who have opened their consciousness enough to receive it. It will invoke a call to action, and all at once those who can hear it will know exactly what they are meant to do. I do not know if it is individualized or if it is collectively all the same, but it felt as though everyone who heard this call aligned their intention at the exact same time to hold on to a vision of healing for the whole planet and all beings on it. This group are the ones who no longer carry any fear, doubt, or lack of worthiness in their hearts, who have an incredible faith in their vision of a better future, and believe in the power of their intention with such certainty that the potency of their prayer and vision cannot be obstructed by shadow. This divine consciousness, in combination with those that align to its call, will illuminate the earth and everyone on it with a light of healing that purifies everything. The ETs explained to me that if right now, all at once, the entirety of everyone on Earth was to stop destroying this planet and each other, the damage we have caused in this moment now is so unsurmountable that it would take a multitude of generations to reverse the devastation we have caused our planet and its people. And seeing as we are not prepared to stop anytime soon, and the contamination of our world progresses, we are in short beyond repair. They said the only way that we will save ourselves is to stop looking at our world from the third dimensional perspective, where everything is defined by time and space, believing that we are confined by the density of this reality, therefore slowing and limiting our ability to facilitate the change necessary to heal our world. It will require the effort of many who have been illuminated to access their fifth dimensional mindset, where the power of belief and positive intention can bring thought into form almost instantaneously. They will change the fabric of this reality for the greater good of all, abolishing fear. The power of healing light will be anchored by this potent group of people holding the vision, and a colossal purification will take place, lifting this planet and everyone on it to a higher dimension. We simply decide to choose a better reality. This is ascension. After this massive healing and reset, everyone will be fully integrated into a higher consciousness, living in a state of love and oneness with all. The ETs will then share with us all aspects of their more advanced way of living, so we too may live more harmoniously with this new earth and each other. They will offer energies and technologies that are sustainable to our world. We will be given a greater system of education and be taught advanced forms of healing. Everyone will desire to live in spiritual harmony with all living things, and we will inspire and lift one another rather than compete. People will contribute to society by doing things that fulfill their spirit as it is in alignment with their greatest passions. All technologies, spiritual practices, medicine, education, and art will be in true alignment with the highest good of all things living. It will be a bona fide golden age. So this incredible revelation, though hopeful and wonderful to consider, had me wondering about the suffering that still must unfold to get us there. Is it necessary, I asked, for so many people to go through all that suffering before we get there? No, they said. It can happen sooner. As you sit, you are now headed towards this deeply polarized reality, where many will experience terrible hardships. But if more of you awaken fast enough, you can bypass that reality. It takes a specific number of you to be open to receive this call to action for it to initiate. So it is dependent on your own people to do what is necessary to get as many of you there as soon as possible. There's no more important time than now to stay in alignment with the light, to hold the higher vision, to not be distraught by the charade of fear that is trying to blind you with hopelessness. You must hold a positive intention in all that you do, and remember that you are all very powerful creators. The second you doubt this in yourself adds to creating more of a limited reality that you are already in. For every kind act to any one person, if it helps them feel even an atom less of despair, or connects them to the feeling of unconditional love, you will create a vibrational lift that ripples through the collective and enhances the opportunity for another person somewhere down the line to reach the full potential of their awakening. It takes the effort of all to get you there. This is how it can be done faster, and that each of you must hold the responsibility in yourself to be mindful of your energy and projections. The ability to exist heart-centered and empowered with love, light, and faith is what will ultimately save your planet. As I processed this vision for the weeks after, I was reminded of another vision I had about a year ago, and wonder if what I saw was what it might be like at the exact moment that the healing light is injected into the earth. In this vision, I saw the earth as two, one more in shadow and one more in light. They were superimposed on top of each other, so that it seemed as though both were coexisting, but those who aligned with one form of the earth or the other would be having a totally different experience. I saw a deepening of separation happening as the worlds were splitting apart, and at the final moment, before they detached from each other, this light filled everything. I observed it like a plasmic curtain of golden light and iridescent rainbow waves of cosmic energy undulating within it. I was in awe as I looked around, and the spirits and beings that I have been perceiving through the veil for most of my life now looked fully embodied. I saw my spirit guides standing beside me and angelic beings of light and ETs, as well as the other human beings who were like me, observing this grand separation of these two versions of Earth, supported by their guides and angels too. We looked at each other as this wall of light came down, and we could see how it was affecting those who were still anchored to the more shadowy Earth. There were people on the other side of this curtain who had enough opening in their spirits to be affected by this incredible light, and many of them were screaming in the streets. It was as though this light was forcing anything that they had not processed or learned within themselves to surface all at once. A man in front of me had fallen to his knees and clutching his head, he was wailing in horror and despair. When I focused on him, I could hear his thoughts and feel his pain. He was having a very intense life review within himself, and was so clearly aware of all the terrible things he had done and the scope of suffering that he had been subjected to. The level of shame, guilt, and pity he had in himself was unbearable. I could see flashes of the acts that he had committed on others and the abuses that he had endured rolling over his being as he processed the horrid truth of who he had become and how he got there. His heart cried out for mercy and forgiveness, and at the same time he felt unworthy to receive it. The desperation and anguish I saw in him was hard to watch, but I felt nothing but compassion, because I knew he was the product of his own wounds. I knew he had not been one of the fortunate ones who were able to work through their karmic loads and liberate their souls towards the light. It was then that all the higher beings looked to us and said, "There's not much time. Go and save as many as you can." And all of us crossed through this curtain and ran to these people who were facing their own darkness. We put our hands upon them, and in one focused thought we conveyed to them that they were already forgiven. And the shadows that kept them locked into their own madness lifted from them instantaneously, and they were able to stand and join those who were on the other, more illuminated earth. Eventually the two split, and those who were left behind stood in the wake of the shift, confused, realizing so many have disappeared, but having no awareness of what they've missed out on. Those who moved on with the new earth no longer held on to the memory of the old world. They did not even grieve it. They had been rebirthed anew. So there it is, my complete process and interpretation of this potential prophetic path, there for your consideration. Could it be a possibility in our lifetime? I guess we'll see. Until then, it would be no harm for us to spread the light in any way we can, and hold on to the faith that we will eventually get to a better reality, no matter what that path may be. Thank you for taking the time to listen. Blessings.